You're watching the TC MMA podcast.
Now, as we jump into the main event, middleweight division, right? It's supposed to be Robert Whittaker and Hamza. If that was the case, you'd get no middleweight title fight announced just yet until that fight is done. Even though it would likely be Du Plessis versus Adesanya, which would create a problem because Hamza and Strickland would have no fight to take. Strickland's not fighting Hamza. He's not fighting down again. He's only fighting for the title. So now you get this fight announced today. Du Plessis versus Adesanya. Maybe it was on accident. I don't know. But once Dana White posted the video with that in the background, Adesanya felt like he can get on the social media and make the official statement. So it is official. That's the fight for the title. But nonetheless, Whittaker and Aliskerov will create a situation where one of these guys will move into or remain, if you're Whittaker, in the top five. Right? In the top five. And that's a Mavov, Whittaker or Aliskerov, Sean Strickland, Adesanya, and Du Plessis. Those will be the guys. After this fight's over, the great month of June for middleweight is officially over. And unfortunately, we don't get to see Hamza, as King Terzi told us in the chat room moments ago, that it was stomach issues for Hamza, not an immune system problem. He will be back. It's just tough because he can't fight in the United States, thanks to Biden. Right? If Trump's the president, Hamza can likely fight in the U.S. again. That's the bottom line. Because Trump's a UFC fan, he can look past those things and say, Hamza, go ahead and get your visa. Let's get these fights underway. I think that's what Trump would do. Because Dana White would probably ask personally and say he's not a threat in any way, regardless of who he hangs out with. Nonetheless, that's the case right now. The election's not too far off, and that would open the door for Hamza to fight more often in American settings where he can't now. And the UFC's only going overseas to places Hamza can fight like once or twice a year. So it's really a problem right now. But nonetheless, Hamza is out. We're getting into the chat room. Before we get into this prediction, it looks like right now, among the people that polled, 2 out of 3 or 67% think Aliskerov is going to win. Incredible. Incredible. I mean, it's possible, yes. And maybe I go with him in the prediction. Let's see. Let's get into it right now. In the middleweight division, your main event, new main event at UFC Saudi Arabia. You got Robert Whittaker coming in at 26-7, taking on Ikram Aliskerov, who comes in at 15-1. And by now, we've known this, but you also know that he's only lost to Hamza Chimaev, so rightful replacement for him. Both guys stand 6 feet tall. Whittaker, 2 years older, 33 compared to 31. Both guys in the prime. Like it. Aliskerov, 2-inch reach advantage. He fights southpaw. Whittaker fights right-handed. Aliskerov has the advantage in activity big time. 8.2 significant strikes per minute to 4.6 for Whittaker. And also Aliskerov lands just shy of 1 takedown per round. So he's got the edge, at least in terms of the numbers. But Whittaker, 82% takedown defense. He's coming off the win over Paulo Costa by decision. Neither fighter took the fight to the ground. You know Paulo Costa likes to stand and strike, but he got dominated there 95-67 by Whittaker. Whittaker lost to Du Plessis by KO. Before that, he beat Marvin Vettori, so proving he's in that top 5 of the division where Aliskerov is trying to get, and lost to Adesanya before that. Now, in between the Adesanya fights, he beat Kelvin Gastelum, Jared Cannonier, and Darren Till. So despite not being able to hold on to the title any longer, he's still in the top 3 or 4 for sure. Forget the rankings, right? He's definitely in the top 3 or 4 of this division, so this is a perfect opportunity for Aliskerov. Now, Aliskerov's got good numbers, but he's fought Warley Alves, beat him by KO. Beat Phil Hawes by KO. Submitted Mario Sousa at the Contender Series. So this is really early to face a guy like Robert Whittaker, in my opinion. There's no doubt that Aliskerov has great numbers. Now, if he fought the schedule that Robert Whittaker has against Adesanya, Du Plessis, all the top names, those numbers are going to come down. So really, you have to dismiss those numbers, right? He would still land more takedowns than Robert Whittaker, but the takedown defense for Whittaker, when you're looking at those opponents, is really good. This is why Whittaker is a slight favorite. And although, I'll be honest, I'd like to see Aliskerov win this fight and shock everybody and catapult himself into the top 5, which would only prove further that Hamza Chimaev eventually belongs in there if he can get back to 100%. However, Robert Whittaker has the experience in this situation, right? I think Aliskerov is a little early to take this fight. The good news for him, early in his career to take this fight, but the good news for Aliskerov is that he's fresh and he gets the opportunity. And good fighters don't, you know, look past an opportunity like this. They take this fight, and he was training for a fight just a week earlier. So he's primed and ready to go. He's had a solid training camp, just like Whittaker. Now, he wasn't planning on fighting Robert Whittaker. That may, that'll be a negative, but at the same time, he's 100% ready to fight. I just like Robert Whittaker by a little bit just because of the experience. But Aliskerov isn't going anywhere. I look for Robert Whittaker to win this fight just on sheer experience, especially if it goes into the deeper rounds. He wins, in my opinion, likely by decision. It's going to be a close fight, and Aliskerov's going to have 2 good rounds on takedowns. Please believe it. But Whittaker wins, in my opinion, by decision to move to 27-7 here. Middleweight division, your main event at UFC Saudi Arabia. And not only, and I'm just taking the best pick in this situation, right? And not only does Whittaker have the experience, if it does go 4 or 5 rounds, he definitely has more experience in that setting. Now, could Aliskerov come in here and finish him in the first round? Sure. Make my prediction wrong? Absolutely. Would not be surprised whatsoever. But when making the pick, I got to go with Robert Whittaker. All day, every day. As we look into the chat room, a lot of stuff going on here. King Terzi saying, am I delusional to think Ikram walks through Whittaker and the Hamza rematches Ikram for the #1 contender fight? Guys, question mark. Seems like Sean's fighting the winner of Dricus Izzy. Yeah, and it seems now with Hamza out, this division is on hold as far as championship fights for a while. Like, we already know what the future is. Regardless of who wins, Sean Strickland gets the next fight because, he lost a split decision to Duplessis. He beat Adesanya. So, yeah, he's next in line. King Terzi again, I don't think they should fast-track Islam to title without Chimaev. He has only pulled out of 1 fight in his career. The 3 Leon fights were the same illness that the UFC rebooked month after month. Yes. Jim Brony says UFC pulls fighters all the time and then make fake stories about why the fights get canceled. They booked Nate versus Hamza to promote the card. Those 2 guys were never going to fight. That's interesting that Jim Brony says that. I didn't think that fight was going to happen either. I mean, I couldn't believe that Hamza gets to #3 and then he's going to have to face an unranked Nate Diaz. It's like they're using Hamza in that situation. Werewolf MMA says Ikram by first round KO. I would not be surprised. Jumbroni, Hamza is UFC Golden Goose. They probably booked him versus Whittaker and then realized they could make something else happen, or this whole thing was to promote the card. MMA weighs in. We just need Hamza back. He apparently had a stomach bug, so it wasn't something autoimmune, according to his manager. Mr. Softy MMA. Sean is fighting Whittaker next if Rob wins. UFC will pay him. However, if Aliskerov wins, they pay in Chimaev heavy for the main slot in Abu Dhabi for the #1 contender fight. Yeah, I can see that. I don't see Sean Strickland fighting down again. And no matter who wins this fight, Strickland will be fighting down. And I don't see that happening. So I think you're going to see, if Aliskerov wins, you're going to see Hamza versus Aliskerov. You got to, right? Aliskerov's in a 2-fight battle here to maintain whatever spot he gets if he beats Whittaker. And now he's 80% in the chat poll, right? 4 out of 5 guys say Aliskerov is going to win, which is incredible, right? Because Whittaker is ever the veteran. He beats everyone in front of him except the title fighters right now. So it's interesting to see the comments in the chat room. This is going to be a great fight. It'll answer some questions in this division. But the bottom line is we just got to get past this fight, and then we can start looking at matchups going forward. But I don't see Sean Strickland fighting Robert Whittaker or Ikram Aliskerov. I think the winner of this fight is kind of on hold for a while, and we'll need another fight to get where they got to get to. If Whittaker wins, he's not fighting Hamza again, right? That fight was already set up. It didn't happen. He's not going to do it. He's going to start barking up the ladder, and then you're going to have a problem because Strickland's not going to fight him. Who's going to fight Robert Whittaker? Could he get the loser of Izzy and Duplessis? That's very possible as well. as Sean Strickland faces the winner. I think that's the most likely option. Aliskerov wins. He's on the back burner and will fight Hamza. So that's just kind of how it looks going forward. So we kind of have an angle regardless of who wins this fight, but it will certainly be an exceptional fight to watch, and we're all going to find out how good Ikram Aliskerov is. If we got to miss Hamza, which we obviously are, Ikram is not a bad bet. Even though it's early in his career to get a fight like this, it'll be interesting to see what he can do, and it's a great opportunity for him, one that I don't think he'll squander, and he obviously took the fight for a reason because he's preparing to win this thing.
He's gon' fight, he's gon' fight. Hold your breath till the end of the night. Last fight of call, UFC at its height. Bringing that thunder with all his might. Saying, step up, wanna fight? Hold up, think twice. Gladiator, assassin, reckless, no abandon. Walk through that cage, he'll leave your ass.